Hello everybody, hope you're doing okay. Welcome to week 8 of Sub 3 to Seville, where I tried to chronicle my training leading up to the Seville Marathon in now 3 weeks time, rather scarily. So for a bit of background, if you haven't seen some of my videos before, I'm a 56-year-old male runner, obviously, rather tall, 6'5", 195, about 72 kilograms on a good day, so rather thin I suppose. I've been running pretty much all my life really. I started running when I was about 15, back in school, and I really was an 800 metre, 1500 metre runner back in the day. PBs of 155 and 355. My marathon PB came in 2005 when I was aged 38, did 233. So I haven't actually broken sub 3 now for 3 years. My last marathon was a 309, so I'm desperately trying to see if I can eke out one more sub 3 before I get too old. So those of you who enjoyed watching Sue, my wife, come along to some of my long runs, unfortunately she's away this week. I've had a Facebook message from her saying that I've been replaced by a cat and a dog, which I'll post up there. So anyway, I thought I'd just have a sort of brief overview of my training this week, and then we'll dive into little clips of the long run and a little one of the Saturday run as well. So here's a brief summary of my training this week and last week. So we've got 75 miles this week and 66 miles last week. So 75 miles I think is the third longest I've done in the block. I've had a couple of 18-mile weeks, but I've had a good week culminating here in a 22.6 mile run. So I'll just go to a little clip of that one. The aim of this one was basically to do, it's sort of a good effort, but then try and push on in the last 6 miles, Matt said. Hello everybody, hope you're doing okay. Welcome to Medsted, the same Medsted of Medsted and 4 marks for the station and the watercress line. Anyway, no Sue today, you'll be sad to hear. She's actually down in Wiltshire with the family, as he said. I've been let off to go for a long run, although not feeling absolutely great at the moment. So I've got 22 miles on deck and I'm not feeling absolutely brilliant, so I have to see how we go. Anyway, right, let's crack into this. The last 6 miles are meant to be pushing hard, but whether I'll even get to the last 6 miles is meant to be seen. But one of those days that, well, I'll just have to see how I go and see how I feel. I've got 4 Morton gels with me, 2 cath ones and 2 normal ones, so I've got to be getting good use of them to practice. Only 3 weeks to go now, which is rather scary. Right, let's go on this run then. Okay, about 6 miles in. Yeah, a bit of a struggle today. This is a lot hillier course than I remembered. So, yeah, it all went downhill for about a mile and a half. I just climbed all the way back up into a headwind. So, yeah, challenging. Already had 1 gel, but yeah, at least the rain's holding off. I nearly took out my new GORE-TEX jacket. Anyway, just got the bright yellow one I'm talking today. Right, see you later. So 8 miles in, just stopped on this little church here to have a quick breather. Yeah, so I've kind of been really cold in the arms actually. Not sure I've got some sort of virus coming on, but yeah, I need to crack on. Not feeling too bad, I suppose. Let's just stop for a little milestone here. Alton 1, Basingstoke 10. So here we are in Alton at the new bridge for the watercress line. And I think I'm going to go down here, Winchester Road, which is sort of a dead end. Not quite sure where I am at the moment, but somewhere near where I'm going. We just found another milestone right by the railway bridge. Okay, just ticked over the half marathon about 1:48, so a bit of a cross-country route this one. I think I'm going on a path which is kind of parallel to the watercress line, back towards 4 marks, then Medsted. So I've literally got about 8.5 miles to go. I think when I get off this path, I'll try and pick up the pace if I've got anything left in me. It's a bit of a struggle today, as I said, but yeah, nice little run anyway. Okay, 16 miles done, so technically I should be trying to push on now. So I'll just sort of see if I can stretch out a bit, do this 6 miles before it gets dark. As much as I say, actually got the Next Ascent 2s on today, my purple and black colourway one they got for a good deal. I think it's £134 rather than £101 one. But yeah, served me well, and quite an early course. Right, we'll check it at the end, I think. Okay, done. 22.6 miles in 3 hours 2. I think that's my longest run of the block. The last 6 or 7 miles there, it's about 7:20, so I think I average for that. Yeah, so not sort of marathon pace, but that's sort of the idea is to sort of see what I can feel with those last few miles. Bit of up and down at the end there when it's getting dark, but yeah, got through it all right. I had 4 gels in the end, normal Morton gel, then 2 calves, and then a final one about every 4 miles, I'd say. So I had the last one about 16, 17 miles. So yeah, nice little run, 3 weeks to go. Yeah, getting a bit nervous for it now, but I actually felt better that on the run than I did actually before I started, so that's good. hope it just won't go down with anything. It's just trying to keep out of the way of any viruses and stuff. Right, onwards and upwards then. Okay, so if you remembered, I did the Farnborough half marathon last week in 1:28:21. That compares with 1:24:53 3 years ago, before I also did the Seville Marathon in 2:56. So I'm a bit down on where I was, but it was a very cold day last Sunday, and so all things considered, it was okay. I think I was hoping for a bit better, but I'm in really heavy training at the moment, so I think I'm just really quite tired. So in a way, I think the half marathon was a sort of indication of that. I'm fit, but not really sharp yet. Anyway, so this is how the week panned out. Monday was just a sort of a recovery run. Wore the Velocity Nitro 2s, which I'm rather disappointed with them actually. I've just got them over 100 miles, but I think I'm going to retire them now. They felt rather flat, and I had a bit of sort of plantar issues in the next couple of days as a result. So yeah, a bit disappointing that really, but a cheap shoe, I think it's kind of the message these days that if you wear a cheap shoe, then maybe you pay for what you get. So yeah, I'm going to retire that one, I think. Tuesday, I managed to get over 10,000 streets on city strides, doing about a 1 hour 15 run there, just under 9 miles. It was around Ashted, a bit up and down. It was a bit cold that day, so pleased to get that one done. I actually opted for the NOVABLAST 3s actually. Initially I hated those NOVABLAST 3s, but I've actually gone back to wearing the UK 13, which I thought was too big for me. So interesting how sometimes that the first impressions of a shoe isn't always the right impression. So I've only done 40 miles in them, but I've done about 60 miles in the size 12 that I had as well. So yeah, maybe a shoe that I can use a bit more. It's a bit of a recovery shoe for me though, to be honest, really. So not really the endorphin speed sort of substitute that I was kind of hoping for. Okay, moving on to Wednesday, I actually did my first run on Zwift on the treadmill for some time. So I joined a group run doing stage 5 of the Tour de Zwift. It was actually in New York. A bit disappointing really, Zwift of late. I mean, I think it's been going quite a few years now, and I really used to sort of support it a lot, but I think there was only about 10 people in that run, and it was about a 7 o'clock run, primetime UK. So it's just a bit disappointing that the run side of it hasn't really evolved, but we live in hope. Thursday had a really big session. Let's dive into this a bit more. I didn't actually film this one because I was on the way to physio, but it was a really good session actually. So the aim of it was to do 3x6k trying for sub 3 pace with a 1k float. So basically it doesn't mean like a jog, that means to just sort of carry on at about 7:30 pace, something like that, sort of like sort of almost a steady pace, not really sort of just easing off. So the idea is to sort of like make that sort of a long run without even knowing about it. And I was quite pleased with that because I averaged 7:07 pace there for 15.46 miles in just under 1:50 moving time. In fact, my elapsed time and my moving time are almost identical. I didn't really stop at all, really. I was wearing the Next Percent 2s that I also wear for the long run. I'm really sort of enjoying them. I had a bit of a problem with my toe at the moment. I've plaster on it. So the Next Percent 2, just slightly more volume in the toe box over the Next Percent 1, which is really my preferred shoe. But at the moment, when I needed a bit more room, it's quite handy to strap them on. And these are one of the ones I got for quite a discount. So good to get them in good use. I've now, with the run today, got them up to 69 miles, more or less. So if you have a look at a closer detail at some of the splits. So the first one, to be fair, that was slightly downhill, but then a slightly uphill finish there. So, but I was sort of like getting into it. So that was spot on, sort of 2:56 pace from Seville. It did sort of feel quite hard in terms of like the effort, but see, my heart rate there was still fairly low as it was in Farnborough the previous time. The float there was the 7:26. Admittedly, I think that was slightly downhill, but it all helped. Then I went to the next one. Remember that sort of started off into sort of fairly flat, but into the wind. So I was quite pleased with that. It's 6:46, 6:49, and a 6:44, and then a 6:46. So a very even pace, pretty much the same pace as the first one. And the float was a bit of meandering around this village here called Fringford, which one of my commentators on Strava said he used to live down one of these cul-de-sacs I do for city strides. So small world, isn't it? Anyway, so I had to go back to where I parked at Mixbury, near where the HS2 is running actually. And that was slightly uphill. If we look at some of these ones here, that's slightly uphill, and it was also into a slight headwind. So pace drops very slightly there, but I think if anything, I was working harder on that third one than I was on the first two. So I was pleased with that. You can see my heart rate there got up a bit higher into the sort of mid to late 130s. But yeah, all in all, a good session. And I was off to physio. No real problems at the moment, but I always go every 2 weeks to get a bit of an MOT. So if I do have any problem, it's never that too far to go. Friday, I did another sort of notional hour, again fairly easy. This time it was actually through Ashted, doing a few streets there. It was quite flat around there, so I actually took an opportunity to wear the Boston 11. It's interesting, when I got the Boston 10, I really hated the shoe, but I think it was too small for me. But it's really, really a firm shoe, but it's actually sort of faster than it thinks for the weight. It's quite a heavy shoe, it's about 380 grams in my size, but it does roll along quite nicely, I think. I mean, I wouldn't really take it out for sort of any sort of sessions or anything, but if you just want a bit of sort of extra support and, you know, you don't want to really soft shoot on any particular day, then it's quite a good option. As you can see here, I was rounding around all these streets, trying to fit them all in. Some nice little rather posh lanes around here as well. Sort of like a private bit here. I went on to a few bits and there's meandering with public footpaths as well. And these sort of skirts on the railway line as well. So back to Saturday, and I had some difficult runs to do for city strides to try and finish off Guildford. I've almost finished off Guildford. So if we look at the map here, I don't know if people are familiar with Newlands Corner, but the A25 downhill road is one of the streets I had to do. So I've been plucking up courage to tackle that one. So I put on my fluorescent yellow vest and actually ran down it, having run up from Walbury on this road here called Water Lane, which turns into a bit of a track, rather sort of a steep ascent. If you can see there's Water Lane. And then there's my descent down Newlands Corner. And then I went up, finished up going up Coombe Lane, which I had to do to also complete city strides. So I did a little video of that one. So if you recognise the Surrey Hills, you won't recognise this Coombe Lane one. I'm right at the top of it. Oh, it's steep. Right. And then meandered back to Albury to complete that. So that was a nice little hour's loop. And then we're back to today's long run. So I'll look at the stats of that one in a bit more detail. 7:52 average pace, 2:58 moving, 3:02 elapsed time, a few sort of pit stops to take pictures, etc, etc. I was in the next %2s again there. And let's have a look at the lap splits. So I parked in by the recreation ground in Medstead, like cricket ground. And then I did a bit of quick meander around the village. Then I headed out to this place called Beach, which is fairly flat for a while. Then it really descends down. And I think what's the problem with descending down? Look at that descent there. They probably have to sort of come back up again. So I went up, came back up this sort of country lane here through these two villages. I think that's where I did my first video there. And then I went back down to Beach again to pick up some more roads. And then I headed into Alton town centre, saw where that Watercress Line bridge is. It was closed for a while and then now reopened again. Quick meander through some new estate there opposite the sports ground. And then I went on this sort of bridleway come track. It looks really, when you're running it, it feels quite flat, but when you look on the graph here, noticeably uphill. In fact, the last bit you can feel it's uphill, but this bit here feels like it's fairly flat. So interesting, sometimes can be deceptive. And then when I got sort of made it off the track, and then did a couple of cul-de-sacs there. And when I headed back to Medstead, that's when I did my last video, I think. And then it was fairly flat then, so I went back up towards the Abbey there, and it's sort of fairly flat. I didn't sort of then go down to the descent bit, so this is all the bit I was doing, sort of like harder efforts. So if we look at my lap splits at the end there, 7:37, 7:26, 7:25, 7:31, 7:22, 7:19, 7:23, and then I went a bit of up and down just to get a bit more mileage in. So yeah, that was a good sort of finish. I mean, it's not really marathon pace, but it felt like it was marathon effort. So I think the idea with Matt was saying to sort of see what you can do at the end, not trying to go absolutely all out. I mean, I think perhaps if I life depended on it, could have got to marathon pace, but it wasn't really the aim of the day. And as I said, I was feeling a bit virally. I do feel a bit virally at the moment, but I'm hoping that won't come to much. I've got some chocolate here, so see how we go. And a coffee drink as well. Stacks for midnight editing. Okay, so I hope you found this interesting. Like and subscribe and all that, and see you on the next one. Bye.